Shell gas pump. Storytelling through pictures. Chapter 1. 89 years ago, in 1928, there was a man and a pump. Phase 1 1928 to 1948. Phase 2 1948 to 1978. Phase 3 1978, today. By 1925, urban life began for Amman's 10,000 residents. Amman development projects between 1923 and 1934, which included Main Thoroughfare, built over Documentus Maximus, and King Faisal I Street Plaza, initiated over the Roman Cardo, changed the overall view of the city. Amman was transformed from a small village into a major commercial hub in the region. Subsequent to these events, an urban upheaval occurred. The streets were widened, and their boundaries were marked to allow building of shops and houses at both sides. This involved a rapid rise in commuting from cities and areas surrounding the capital, and sped up the emergence of Amman as a regional center activity and its plaza as a focal point. The increase in buses and cars ownership resulted in an increased demand for fuel dispensers. Here is the story. Fuel dispensers of Amman since 1930. Fuel dispensers are also known as bozers, petrol pumps, or simply gas pumps. Phase 1, 1928 to 1948. Roots to a gas pump can be traced back to 1880s. Bowser's invention, which could reliably measure and dispense kerosene, soon evolved into the metered gasoline pump. Fuel dispensers were needed there to pump gasoline or other types of fuel into the tanks within vehicles. But first, here is a feature which I found interesting when I first visited France in 1977 and later in 1985 and 2015. As most of the world's gas, petrol stations are large drive-in affairs, Paris contains little curbside establishments which take up no more space than a pair of parking spots. Curbside gas pump. Paris, little curbside establishments which take up no more space than a pair of parking spots. As well as in Rome. Throughout the USA, circa 1920, there were 15,000 gas stations and around 7,500 curbside gas pumps. A gas station sold gas, batteries, oil and tires, and the attendants wore uniforms. They provided basic services like tire repair and lubrication. Virginia, USA, circa 1920. Curbside gas pumps were in Amman since 1930. In May 1939, a military parade took place in the plaza, which was apparently designed to reinforce the legitimacy of the new rule and to impress upon the population the strength of the armed forces. In Amman, the early gravity-fed gas pump with a clear cylinder was used as a curbside gas pump, called visible gas pump. Third type 1925, by the Royal Dutch Shell, commonly known as Shell, a British-Dutch multinational oil and gas company. This style gasoline dispenser used a hand-operated pump to move gasoline from the storage tank into the visible cylinder at the top of the pump. Once the cylinder was full, the customer would then place the gas nozzle into the tank of his automobile. A valve on the pump would then be opened to allow gravity to feed gasoline into the tank. The amount of gasoline dispensed into the tank would be measured by the amount removed from the cylinder. Amman 1940. This pump was made using cast iron, brass, copper and glass. If it were here today, it would have been in this point. At 14 Faisal 1 Street Plaza, downtown Amman. (1930) 2017. After the Second World War, on May 25, 1946, the Transjordan became the Hashemite Kingdom of Transjordan when independence was recognized on April 18, 1946 by the League of Nations. And in 1948 thousands of Palestinians fled the Arab-Israeli fighting to Amman, doubling the population of the city to 60,000. By 1950, as a consequence of the strong internal rural-urban movement and such migration, the population growth rate has been so high and its spatial expansion took the form of climbing the hills that surrounded the urban core. Roads have been constructed making motor traffic possible from Amman to all the chief towns of the new kingdom. Downtown gradually lost its importance as the economic and social center of the city. By virtue of the combination of its difficult topographic situation, its cramped central business district in the valley, and the modern building rash of hilltop developments, many antagonistic forces coexist. Amman between 1930 and 1950. Phase 2, 1948 to 1978. Again, this involved a rapid rise in commuting from cities and areas surrounding the capital, and sped up the emergence of Amman as a regional center activity and its plaza as a focal point. Rapid rise in commuting and the increase in buses and cars ownership resulted in an increased demand for fuel dispensers. And the increase in buses and cars ownership resulted in an increased demand for fuel dispensers. But outside the chaotic hub on the peripheries of the expanding city, 7 gas pumps were built on the peripheries of the expanding city. Let us check this out. Shell Pump, Gas Filling Station, 1950s, Al-Mahada Road. Below the Royal Court. Amman 1950 Shell gas pump superimposed on 1936 Amman map. By now, this filling station is a facility that sells fuel and engine lubricants for motor vehicles. Besides fuel dispensers, one other significant device which is also found in filling stations and can refuel certain compressed air vehicles is an air compressor, although generally these are just used to inflate car tires. Here, the early gravity-fed gas pump with a clear cylinder was replaced by computing gas pump, 5th type 1935, by the Royal Dutch Shell, commonly known as Shell, a British-Dutch multinational oil and gas company. Basman Palace. Construction on another, larger project, the Basman Palace, began in 1950. Although it was originally intended solely as a guest house, Basman became King Hussein's primary residence after he ascended to the throne in 1953. Curbside gas pumps. Nice minimalism. Large areas of asphalt and the huge sign. Curbside gas pumps. Nice minimalism that makes one wonder what all the fuss is about in our cities. The large areas of asphalt. The huge signs. The added marketing. Curbside gas pumps. Does anyone know of good examples of urban-compatible gas station designs? Is it possible to design a gas station that doesn't instantly degrade the quality of the pedestrian experience of the frontage of a main street?